so let's go to the other neighboring country here, Lebanon. And, what's actually so shocking about the situation in Lebanon is the little amount of effort that they've tried to give to justify it. I mean, really, there's almost no effort. I mean, there's barely any narrative as far as the Western media is concerned about why Israel is bombing Lebanon every day. Now, as you mentioned earlier, and I guess the official narrative is that this is Hezbollah. These are Iranian proxy groups, terror groups, and they can't be there. They're a threat to Israel, so they're just bombing everything. Well, I don't know if I buy that. There might be an element of truth to that. But my question to you is, why is it that the situation in Lebanon is kind of just like getting a pass? I guess that's my confusion with it. There seems to be no international outcry. I mean, even the UN and the International Criminal Court, which has been very on Israel's ass about what's going on in Gaza and Palestine, they're virtually silent on the Lebanon situation. What am I missing here? Why this, okay, we're just going to let Israel bomb Southern Lebanon until they're pleased. Why is it so silent as far as any pushback is concerned, or any even questioning as to why, or when does it end?
I think a lot of it is just there's saturation right now between what took place in Gaza, what's taking place in Iran. I just think the Israelis have just really flooded the zone with places in which they're conducting military operations. They're occasionally doing targeted strikes inside Syria as well. So I think it's really hard for a lot of people to follow. A major factor too that I think is not being covered is that a big reason why Hezbollah has always kind of been a part of the tapestry inside Lebanon. It's a very complicated country. There's Shias, there's Sunnis, there's Christians, et cetera. They have a power sharing agreement. And so Hezbollah has always kind of been a powerful element there. Israel killed a lot of their key leadership. And so Hezbollah had been significantly weakened. Hezbollah had been relatively unpopular at times because of the conflict that they would start occasionally with Israel. So a lot of people didn't support them. Now, when the al-Shara government in Syria was installed, these former members of Al-Qaeda and ISIS took power in Syria, backed by the West. A blowback of that has been a lot of the Shias are like, oh no, now we have these Sunni Wahhabists back on our border who defended us before. Well, it was Hezbollah that defended them before. So this gives Hezbollah even more power with the people. And so Hezbollah, I think, has started to gain a little bit more momentum in there because a lot of the actions that we took installing al-Shara inside of Syria. And so we're seeing that blowback effect. And again, now the Israelis view right now as a time for them to strike and to strike hard. They think they can get away with it. And honestly, it seems like their calculus is working out pretty well because there's not a lot of attention being paid to what they're doing in terms of what the scale in which they're going after a lot of these Hezbollah strongholds. And again, like we know how the Israelis fight. This is one of the dangers of being partnered with the Israelis. Yes, they can give us very good intelligence, but they fight very differently than we do. Like they have a very different view of civilian casualties. And so when we provide them all this military aid, it's impossible for us to extract ourselves from the way that they fight. Now, if we weren't giving them all the military aid, it's easy for us to say like, hey, that's a different country, different set of values. They're on their border. Hey, like whatever. But at the end of the day, we're still funding all of this. So this is something that we do have control over. And now, based on the way that the negotiations are being handled with Iran, this does directly play into the flow of commerce in the Straits of Hormuz and the goals that we're trying to accomplish with Iran.
Well, and I guess that's kind of where I would end this line of questioning. It seems that the only country that has put a foot down for Lebanon is Iran. And I think obviously they were kind of distracted with their own interests. And I don't know, with all the news that we get, Joe, it's so hard to tell what's real and what's not. I mean, I know you've kind of been on the other side of the fence for a while now. You're back on this side with us. It's so hard to decipher what is real and what isn't sometimes when we're trying to follow these geopolitical stories. But okay, Iran claims that was part of the ceasefire agreement. That's what Iran is claiming, is that Israel has to stop bombing Lebanon. And once they did that, they violated it. And then Iran started bombing Israel again. So maybe that was just an excuse. I don't know. But okay, Iran, the only country right now putting their boot down for Lebanon, is that because they feel that the momentum is on their side? Is that because they feel like it might provide them some leverage as far as, okay, this is another ball in the field that we can kind of decide how we want to react to it or kick to it? Which one do you think it is?
I think the Iranians know that they kind of have the upper hand here. We can never admit that because we're America, we're the strongest country, et cetera. But the way they've choked off the Straits of Hormuz, the way that they've been able to endure all the leadership strikes, Iran definitely has the upper hand right now. And they know that we need a deal. The GCC countries need a deal. That the current status quo, it's not sustainable for the world economy. So I think they're coming in with a very high bid and saying like, no, we're including Hezbollah in this too because they want to maintain that proxy they've invested so much into. And yeah, it's in our long-term interest to make sure that Hezbollah isn't funded as well. But also, like, we need the Straits of Hormuz open. We need there to be a ceasefire. We can't have the ceasefire blown up on a fairly minor point of disagreement. The way that Israel is handling this right now by going automatically high order on Hezbollah targets inside Lebanon in direct violation of the initial agreement. I know there's some dispute on whether or not that was in the initial agreement or not, back and forth, but like, this is a very dumb fight to have when we need to accomplish like the big thing. I think we need to keep the main thing. And the main thing is getting a ceasefire and getting the straits open back up again for commerce, for the flow of energy. We can deal with this Hezbollah issue later. And that's a space for some trade between us and the Iranians. But again, like, Israel's going to come in and say, and I get it from the Israeli perspective, they're going to say, no, this is in our interest. We want to continue to do this. But this is where we need to say to Israel, you're the junior partner. We need to accomplish this big lift with the Straits of Hormuz because this applies to us and the world economy and the GCC. Sit down and be quiet, or we're not going to fund this anymore. We have to have that relationship with Israel, because if we let them continue to drive this, we're going to continue to be in react mode to Israel's strategic objectives, which are far different than our own.